Hi friend, it's JP from toughtones.com. How do you know when to use stereo and when to use mono tracks? Is stereo always better? No. If you have a signal that you're recording with only one mic, then you want to use mono tracks. For example, vocals, guitars, bass, snare, and kick. And even though you're using two mics to get that tone you're after, for example miking guitar amp with two mics or snare with two mics, you don't want to create stereo track for them. Instead, you record them into separate mono tracks and combine them in the mix to get that tone you're after. As you take a look at this mixing project, you can see that almost every track is in mono, all the rhythm guitars, lead guitars, bass, vocals, and most of the drums. Okay then, when to use stereo tracks? You want to use stereo tracks at times you're using stereo making techniques. For example, when you're recording drum overheads with two different mics, or piano or choir or something. So basically every time you're using a stereo miking technique and you want to treat that sound as one. For example, you want to mix overheads as one unit. As you can see, this overhead track is in stereo. So the signal isn't all center like in mono tracks, it's wider. In the same way, we could mic up a piano so that the lower keys are coming from the left and higher keys are on the right. Okay, sometimes you want to combine two mono tracks to form a stereo track. For example, in a case that you have recorded your drum overheads into two separate mono tracks instead of one stereo track, just like here. So as we want to mix these overheads as one, so for example we can use one EQ to EQ them both. So instead of two different mono tracks, we want one stereo track. So we can pan these to the left and right and then bounce them in the place. In Logic you have to use this setting, otherwise it ignores the panning. So now our overheads are in one stereo track. In the same way, we could combine, for example, backing vocals. In this example, I had two mono tracks of each harmony, and I combined each harmony to one stereo track. This way I have fewer tracks to deal with, and I can mix each harmony as one unit. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Right, let's move on. You can also use stereo tracks when there's a stereo effect. For example, a sound or effect that jumps from side to side. Also, if you're using MIDI instruments, those preset sounds are almost always in stereo because there's some kind of a stereo effect baked right into the sound, many a times a delay or a big reverb, or the sound itself is wider. For example, synth pads, strings, pianos, etc. And here's one example. So this synth moves around in the stereo spectrum. Take a listen. So the sound moves around between the speakers. But although these kind of effects and white sounds are nice, you want to use them sparingly. They eat up a lot of space and they make it harder to form a good stereo image. When you have a lot of them in the same mix, it can easily feel like a huge mess and it's hard to pan the instruments right, and also it becomes more difficult to form a good balance. So that's why you probably want to use mostly mono tracks. Although stereo tracks can work beautifully when you have only vocals and maybe one or two instruments. This way the stereo tracks have more space to make their magic. Okay, hopefully you found this video useful and it clarified the use of mono and stereo tracks. And if you want to know more about making professional quality music, even from the comfort of your home, download this free guide that I've made just for you. It doesn't obligate to anything and you get the free guide. So head out to toughtones.com/guide. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to subscribe, and if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Until next time, cheers!